Today I figured I'd treat myself a little bit and watch some good old-fashioned Avatar: Last Airbender, giving you my thoughts on every single episode and seeing what made that series so
Yo, bro! I have a bomb! Bro!
What?
You're not gonna be doing anything
What am I
like
gonna
that.
do?
You know what you're gonna be doing? You're gonna be watching Farzar!
No!
Brickleberry! Paradise PD! It was all leading to this. The final outing, the final show. All three of them are the same, and you have to watch the last one, or I'm gonna blow this whole place sky high, bro. Have fun.
Well, with that very intimidating blackmail, it seems I have no choice. I watched a lot of Brickleberry, a lot of Paradise PD, and you guys love to watch me suffer. So with this blackmail, there's only one thing left to do. Watch Farzar, which is their third show that is exactly the same thing, except it's in space. How exciting is that? I'm unbelievably thrilled to watch another show that somehow got greenlit and seeing was it good or bad. And if you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. I upload 5 days a week, that being Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you want a place where you can talk about your favorite games, movies, and shows, my Discord will be in the description. Now let's finally, unfortunately, take a look at Farzar. Taking a look at the very first episode of Farzar, Welcome to Farzar, this is really weird to me because I actually thoroughly enjoyed the introduction, mainly because of the visuals. It's this character named Renzo explaining how he saved the planet from a bunch of aliens fighting them all, and the visuals are actually a lot of fun. I did enjoy it. It's kind of weird that the show looks like it has more of a budget than Paradise PD. It's kind of like if, you know, you walk into a gentleman's club, you walk up there, and you're like, there's some fun females all around this place, yes, and you see in the corner one that's like 91 years old. She's just like, you let me throw it back for you, and you walk up to it and you just start throwing thousands of dollars on her, and you're just expecting her to come back to your crib, and then she goes, you know, just dies. She spent her last days on the pole, and that's how this feels with this show. Because I imagine they took a look at Paradise PD, saw its drop in the ratings, the overall negative reception to it, and Brickleberry at that, and they were like, you know what? Let's give them another chance, and this time, give them even more money! It's just weird. But I can't lie, it does look visually a lot better. Like, I'm not complaining, it does look better. I just don't really get why you would give them more money. Either way, we have a really cool opening where he's fighting all the aliens, and it's immediately cut with like a scene that I could only really describe that the high school senior, you know, the type of guy who would walk around the halls and see a freshman and be like, where's my hug at? Guess who? As he comes up behind and just hugs a girl without the consent. Yeah, it gives that kind of vibe with this joke, where it just immediately cuts to Renzo explaining how he fought all these aliens and describing it by shoving a needle or a toothpick into an alien's cack. Like, not a real alien, it's a cardboard alien, but still really weird, and he's doing it in front of a bunch of school children.
Okay, kids, that's enough state-mandated history for today.
So, what are you trying to teach here? That you should violate your enemies? No, sir, you don't want to teach the kiddos that. That will lead to some bad things. But, either way, just, you know, having something really cool happen and then just immediately follow it up with a shit joke, that's kind of the story of the show. So, Renzo is talking about all that. We get to learn a little bit about our main villain for the series, Bezarak, with a joke where he's like, I take my shoes off at airplanes! Yeah, cool, okay, good introduction. And then, oh boy, we get some meta jokes here and there, where they're like, is this gonna be like Rick and Morty or Futurama? You know, because they just have to be meta, you know, you can't have an adult animated show that's just funny on its own. You have to reference the real world, which every other adult animated show does anyway. Woo-hoo-hoo! God, you're so unique and different. I'm so happy to be watching this. And then we get introduced to this character named Feikle, who is just so unbelievably thrilling because he's the exact same character in Brickleberry and Paradise PD. He's basically just the definition of a loser, and we establish this by him using a lightsaber. He flips it around though, and is just like, oh no, my penis, oh! And he does that not once, but twice.
You die.
thrilling, shocking comedy. And then in response to this, okay, one of the side characters, I guess he doesn't really matter much, he's just like, I'm sorry, and just shoots himself in the head.
Have to do. I was going to say apologize.
Why is that happening? It's just shock value humor, like, for people who are genuinely so unbelievably zooted out of their minds that I don't know if anybody could watch this just naturally and have a good time. Because I'm definitely not. It's painfully unfunny how hard they try to get you to laugh by saying ultimately nothing. Like, it's just so odd. And to, like, just expand upon that even more, instead of, you know, having a, like, side character who is a drug addict, I mean, they do, it's a robot this time instead of a little bear or a dog, so that's great. We still do have that character. The animal that they chose to have in this series, his name is Billy. In his introduction, he walks up, and he's like, I'm Billy, hello! And he's like, I'm so happy I made the team, and just starts jorking his hog, just pounding his pancake, flapping his flapjack.
Billy on team, Billy happy.
Why? Just is that the comedy? Is that really it? Like, you have 30 people in a room, like, okay guys, this is our debut episode. What can we do to entertain everybody? I'm talking people over the age of 18, you know, our target demo here. We're trying to get them to laugh. What do people like that laugh at, huh? What do they like? Well, let's bring in this grotesque thing that looks like it's missing a couple of chromosomes because it's so unbelievably deformed. It looks like you just mashed a bunch of creatures together, and let's have him walk in and just be like, I'm so happy, and jork his hog. Like, it's just, I don't get it. I really don't get how this can have another show when it's the same exact comedy, and it's just so unbelievably bland, man. Like, hate me if you want. I like a little bit of setups in my jokes. I don't just like watching people masturbate. Sorry, that's just not my cup of tea. It's not. It's really not. So he does that, and then, Feichel, he's trying to set up a team and become a general so that he could impress his family, and he really wants to do that. He's excited about that, so Renzo gives him like a fake team, and he asks the robot, whose name is Scooty, to be on the team, and then we get to see that he was actually a real person, and we get to see how he lost all of his stuff, and in one of them, he ends up in a robot's ass. Not a robot, a giant Rockman's ass, and the Rockman's just like, yes, as he's clenching him in there.
You missed.
Oh. So yeah, it's just thrilling. I really don't understand how the show could have 3 seasons and constantly tell the exact same jokes that are all just shock humor. It's extremely bland, and it's just things happening for no reason. There is one character that I actually think is cool. I guess you could call it 2 characters. It's these conjoined twins. One of them is an intergalactic warrior, and one of them is a school teacher. That's actually a pretty funny concept. You could make like a sitcom about that, about how she's trying to like teach students while fighting an intergalactic battle, and that's kind of what they do in this episode, but they don't really expand on that because we're focusing on the character Feichel and his struggles, and I don't care as much. Like, one of his main struggles is him walking in on his parents, and I prefaced that this lady is old, right? The one that Renzo married, but we just cut to them, and she's like staring at his nipples, and she's like, oh yeah, come on, whisk those biscuits for me, baby. Oh yeah, I want to see those nipples moving and grooving. Come on, do it dirty, do it dirty, do it dirty.
You know what Mummy likes. Oh, yeah. That's warming my whisker biscuit.
Yes, I love watching elderly folk stare into a young man's nipples and tell them to move for me, baby. Yeah, that's great. That's cool. All right. More shock value comedy to feed families for centuries, to say the least. He walks in there and he has his entire team and he wants a real mission. And so he takes them all to find some weaponry, and we meet this doctor who is really freaky, like freaky with a side of freak, like extra freak 7 days a week. Wet ass pussy. He's showing all the weapons, and he has like a suicide slide whistle, and then he has this weird machine that like opens a teleporter to his mom in the shower. What are you doing to your mom in the shower? Why? And he says that he has a problem. Okay. Classical incest joke. What else do we need in life? You know, there's nothing better than a joke like that, I guess. So get out to the battlefield, and again, things are just happening for no reason. So Feichel does get a mission, or kind of gives his own mission. He decides that he's gonna go and get Bezerak's head. He goes to the battlefield, he's getting ready, and he just gets shit on, because what would it be, a Farzar or Paradise PD or Brickleberry episode without somebody just getting covered in dookie? And that's the entire joke. The dookie comes to life and starts hitting a little bit of a jig.
The Bob Dookie dance.
So, yeah, that's very odd. Let me just break down the jokes for you I got so far, okay? So, he sticks a needle into a cardboard alien's cack. He burns his own penis. We have Billy, who walks in and starts jorking his hog. We have a really old lady talking to a young man's nipples about how it whisks her biscuits. Okay. We have a adult man fantasizing about his mother in the shower. And then we have our main character getting pooped on. Woo! Yeah! I can't even lie to you. This is making me feel a little bit fancy. Gosh, I truly feel like a writer for this show. Oh, step to the left, let's make them poop. Step to the right, let's show a penis. Step up front, let's have them jorking their cocks. That's how you write a good show, with good comedy for the show. Yeah. God, this show is just so unbelievably stupid. Like, I know this is just turning into a full-on rant, but I am so unbelievably sick and just sickened by the fact that they got a third show that is the exact same thing, that does nothing different, that has the same kind of comedy. It's literally written for one person. There's one person in the room. He's just sitting there. He's just like, ugh, I've had way too many Datura seeds. Oh, I need more Fent. Bring me more. And that's probably the only person that can watch the show. Like, I hate to yuck on somebody's yum, but I don't get the appeal. I really don't. I just don't get it. So they start fighting some random aliens, and we do get to look at that concept that I actually did enjoy with the school teacher and the conjoined twins and the intergalactic, where she's like fighting a monster, and then she's also trying to explain to the children like what's going on. But then they just kind of soil it by having the intergalactic woman look at one of the children's and be like, hey, are you single, girl? Talking to a 9-year-old and be like, my nephew could really use some trim, and you're looking fine. What? Why? Why are you doing this? Why did that need to happen? I'm feeling less fancy by the minute, to say the least. I just don't get why this was needed, why this needed to happen, and why you felt the need to include that joke talking to a child. Like you were doing something cool. Like, why not just focus on that for an extra 15 seconds? You're fighting monsters. You have the school teacher, like, side plot for the comedy where she's, like, trying to say, like, you know, B is for brains when she gets covered in brains. That's cool. I like that. And then you just have to ask the kid for her buchami, her vag.
Okay, Tina, we need to talk. Yeah, you single? My friend's nephew's looking for some trim.
Billy!
Why? I'm not fancy at all. I'm getting upset. I'm losing my mind over here. So, yeah, they eventually, Billy gets sad and he starts jorking his hog again. So that was cool, I guess. And then they find this, like, other characters that are, like, in the slums near Bezerak's place, and they're all very dumb, and they find the suicide whistle, and they all start killing themselves. And I actually did like this scene, but it's like a where my face is still like, and it doesn't change as I'm watching it, but in my head, I'm like, that was better, you know? Where he's like, oh, all my friends are dead. Oh, look, a slide whistle, and then he dies. I thought that was kind of funny. I did enjoy that.
Oh my God, all my friends are dead. Cool, slide whistle.
But everything else just kind of sucks. Scooty betrays them and was leading them all in circles the entire time, and then they get eaten by a monster, and then they turn on this bouncy castle thing, and the monster gets blown up, and they start using the bouncy castle? Yeah, does this all sound like really convoluted and stupid to you? Because it should! It definitely should! Yeah, it's great. So We then have them meeting Bezerak, and Bezerak explains that Renzo is actually the villain. He lied about everything, and he was the one who eats babies and wants to kill all the aliens and take over for really hostile reasons. Whoa, crazy revelation, crazy revelation. And then all the aliens start singing a song, and I just have to highlight one part of that where one of the aliens who has no legs is describing Renzo, and he's like, he took my handicap parking spot.
He parked in my handicap spot.
Yeah, I liked that. That was cool. Everything else was just fine. And yeah, so Feichel decides to side with Bezerak and then chops off his head and gives it to his dad, but Bezerak can regrow his head, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. Was this sloppy or what? I feel like even trying to describe to you what is happening, it just sucks. It just feels like a convoluted mess, doesn't it? You're probably like, I don't even really know what's going on in this show because you described it shittily. Yeah, of course I did. Because every time they're progressing the story, they just have to throw in a really garbage joke that ultimately slows down the plot in extremely negative ways. It's just stupid, and it makes me angry. I would love for the Farzar defenders to come here and be like, well, you know, Kalos, you clearly just don't like shock humor. Like, that's your problem. No, I love shock humor. I really do. I liked Super Jail. I liked Drawn Together. Those were really shocking. Yes, I didn't like every single episode in those videos, but they had so much shock humor that was actually done well and tastefully because, one, it related to the episode. Two, it isn't just, oh, look, a guy is masturbating. and three, like, they continue off of it. It's not just a one-note thing happening. And yeah, I liked those shows a lot more. This is just so unbelievably odd that they got another show out of this and they just did the same exact thing. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 3 out of 10, which probably sounds generous for how much I've been bitching, but, you know, it's like it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not even going to probably crack the top 5 of the worst episodes I've ever seen, but still, it's more of the fact that this is a rerun of a rerun of a rerun, and it's just the same thing I've seen before, just with a higher budget in space. There's no difference, and the comedy still sucks. Taking a look at episode 2, Robot Revolution, this show genuinely has no idea what it wants to do. There's probably 5 different stories within this one episode. Usually there's just supposed to be an A and a B plot, which shows confidence in your story. You have your A plot that is supposed to be the main stuff with the story going on, some progression, and this is just 10 episodes, so you would think they must have some brilliant ideas. That's why the show got greenlit in the first place. That's why we're actually focusing on some interesting concepts, right? And then you have the B plot to add in a little bit of spice with some side characters, to add something interesting going on that can give you a couple of laughs. You would think that they would just have those 2 plots. There are 5 different things going on, and all of them suck. Genuinely. This episode opens with some good old-fashioned, you know, some just cocksucking. Yeah, ain't that great. I'm not gonna show it because I just can't, but it's that weird freaky doctor who was really into seeing his mom in the shower, and I didn't say it in the episode last because I didn't really think it was going to be that important, but the robot dude, Scooty, he got his penis chopped off. It was gone. It was ripped off. It was gone. And so the doctor, he's trying to save it, but in reality, he's just going, you know, just giving it the goods. And then he's like, nope, it's gone forever. And that's the beginning of the episode. Lovely, wonderful, fantastic. I'm thrilled. I'm having so much excitement. And so they give him a brand new robotic cock. Yeah. And it's like giant and huge and can spin and stuff. And we actually get to like one of my first jokes that I actually really liked. So there was this girl and she sees his Rowenus. I don't know what to call this thing. She sees it and she's like, nope, can't handle that. So she leaves. And then we find this lady who's like super into stunts and she's like willing to do anything. And so she hops right on it. And he's like, this is only 0.5% of my power, girl. And she's like, I could take it, crank it up to 10, baby. And then it just cuts to blood being everywhere because she fucking died.
0.5? I live for danger. Let's turn this bitch up to 10.
I know this looks bad.
I thought that was pretty funny. But it turns out that he has no rights now because he's full robot. So they're gonna take his credit card, his bank account's gonna be frozen, and he's gonna lose his house. So that starts the robot revolution side of the story, which I thought would be really interesting, but they ultimately did almost nothing with it, which was a little bit sad because there was, you know, there was some stuff they could have done with it, but really the only jokes that they decide to make is he ends up in Robot Town and he's talking to the Hobot, which led to absolutely nothing. There's a joke about her having viruses, which is just, you know, STD joke. Great. It was really boring. And then there's this other robot who he bumps into and he's like, I'm going to slog tag you. I'm going to slog slam you, big boy. Do you want it? And that's all he says, and that's the entire joke. The joke is that nobody knows what slag slamming is, and he just says it repeatedly over and over and over again, and it relates to his dead son. And he probably says, I'm gonna slag slam him like maybe 21 times in this episode, you know, not like a lot. No, it is a lot. He says it a fuck ton. And it ultimately leads to nothing. The entire climax of that joke is him just being like, fine, I don't know what it means. I miss my son. Like, it's just so boring and bland. Like, there's 10 episodes, and this is the best you could think of. That's one of our side plots, is the Slag Slam robot. And then we have Scooty trying to do the robot revolution to get some rights back because, you know, he doesn't like being mistreated. And then there's another side plot going on with the twins, where one of the twins is covered up by a paper bag, and the teacher twin is talking to this guy, and she said that it's just a boil underneath the bag, so he just starts going, boil! Boil!
You'll see that boil eventually. It's my only character drive. Boil. Boil.
Yeah, don't really know what they're going for there. It wasn't very funny, and then he just disappears for like a solid 8 minutes, only to return and see that it's not a boil and be like, oh, you've disgraced me, baby. You fucking violated me. Get out of my sight. And that was his entire purpose. His purpose was to come on the screen, say boil a lot, and then get upset when he finds out that it's not a boil. Wow, what a thrilling side plot. Yee-hee, woo-hoo-hoo. God, I'm having such a remarkable time. So Scooty, he starts getting abused by Feikle because he's a robot, so he could get used and abused, which starts up the full robot revolution where all the robots start helping, which makes, stop helping, which makes Renzo get super pissed and wanna basically kill all the robots and kidnap Scooty. So that's going on. And then we have this, like, little chaos pink demon who Feikle found in the first episode, who's hanging out with Billy, and he's all like, I wanna go to the playground. And then they go to a strip club, and he starts just causing immense chaos. I actually liked that portion of the episode because, I mean, it was just pure chaos and the visuals got time to shine. It was just crazy things happening left to right, but it wasn't so over the top that I wanted to hurt myself. It was just a bunch of fire, a bunch of flames, a bunch of people fighting, and it was actually visually pretty cool. I like the chaos aspect, but that is the fourth plot going on within this episode. And then Bezarak, he's also trying to prep like an entrance because the shield is down to the city that they're in, so he's doing that in the episode. So that's cool, I guess. And then we cut to Renzo, who is trying to find a replacement for the robots, and the doctor, he made a giant crow with a brain, and I guess I was wrong because it wouldn't be this studio without animals needlessly dying, because he asks the crow to help him put his pants on, and the crow just grabs a gun and shoots himself in the head. I don't know what their obsession is with things committing suicide in the show. Somebody in the back is like, just sitting in his chair like, oh, what's gonna shoot themselves in the head this time? Oh, yeah, God, gotta make it happen. It's just stupid. It just is, again, things happening for no reason whatsoever, just for pure shock value, with no setup, just hoping that it will make you laugh. And so far, I've laughed once. And, you know, they're bound to make me laugh with at least one thing that they do, but not everything is going to strike it out of the park. And so, Then we get to this point in the episode where he kidnaps Scooty. He's about to put him up on the guillotine to get his head chopped off because he's the leader of them all, and they chop it off, and then they find out that he actually still has 1% of his body. It's just his taint, so he is allowed to have rights again, and he immediately betrays all the robots and tells them to go back to being slaves, and that is just the thrilling way to end the episode, where we cut back to Bezarak, who was planning his entrance this entire time, and he gets thrown off of his thing and gets thrust into a giant alien asshole, just being thrust right up Mario's pipeline. It's just great, you know? Yeah. That was thrilling, great, and unique, and I'm so happy I got to see it. I don't know. This show is just really odd with what it wants to do, and it genuinely feels like it has no confidence whatsoever. Oh wait, I forgot to mention that the conjoined twins, just in the middle of the episode, because they had to add more to their plotline, they thrust down their shirt, and it's revealed that they have a third brother named Sal, who is their boobs, and they're like, well, we can agree on one thing, and they cut him off and throw him in the toilet. Yeah, forgot about that, because there's so much going on. But when you have this many plot lines, it kind of just screams that you don't really have a confidence in your story, because you only have, what, these episodes are 26 minutes? 26 minutes to tell a story, and it feels like you're barely getting anything with every single story that they're trying to tell, especially the Bezarak thing with all the preparing for his entrance. I don't feel like I really got to know that character that much, or what he wants, and I felt like it was just thrown to the sideline by the end of the episode. They were like, oh man, we were making this entire thing with Bezarak, what should we do? Well, I know exactly what to do. Let's have him be thrown off of his horse into a giant alien asshole.
Stomping the band to death and run faster, you stupid dragon!
Yes! That'll make them laugh! And then the twins, there was genuinely no reason for them to be thrown into the episode at all. There was a weird character who just said boil a lot of times, which was ultimately pointless, just for his entire interaction with them to just be like, oh, that's not a boil, get out of here. Wow, great. And then they randomly have a third brother that they cut off of themselves. That's odd. And then we have the Chaos Demon, Chaos Alien Monster, who does an entire sequence with Chaos, and I wish we would have spent more time with that, because that was actually cool, that was actually interesting. I would have loved to see some characters' reactions to that, instead of just pairing him with Billy. With Billy, the only thing that character says is, God, my pelvic area got really sticky in that strip club. Like, dude, I don't care. You gotta have good characters when you're making a show like this. You gotta have charismatic characters that can bounce off of each other, that can make scenes interesting, that can amplify scenes. None of the characters were interacting in meaningful ways at all. Like, it was just all stupid. You want to know the only scene that had a genuine character reaction with something going on that wasn't even funny? It was just this scene before Scooty is about to get executed, where Feigl just, like, walks up to him and starts, like, jorking his entire body, like, and then he's like, sorry, I've never hugged anybody before. Like, it's just weird. And that's the comedy that you're trying to fit into your episode that you're making time for when you already have so many different plotlines going on that it just doesn't work for me. Again, it's just throwing so many different things at you and none of it feels like it works. You're going to title this episode Robot Revolution and you're going to ultimately do nothing with that except show that Scooty now has a taint. Wow, that was great. I'm so glad that there's only 10 minutes in this season and it wasn't canceled. It's 10 episodes that were set for a full season. It was canceled after it was already made. So these 10 episodes should all be leading to something a little bit unique, right? You're trying to tell a more interesting story, right? No, you're not. You're just wasting time, and you don't know a story you want to tell, and I guarantee you the creators, when they were, like, pitched Farzar, or when they were asked to make Farzar, they had no idea what to do. And this just screams that, and it oddly makes me so unbelievably angry. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would give this a 1 out of 10. There is so much going on, none of the characters are that funny, and I honestly hate it. 2,500 likes and I will finish the rest of the series, all 8 episodes, in just like an hour-long video. I will do that, I promise, but this is a good stopping point because I do see the picture of how Farzar is going to go. None of the characters really work for me. It completely relies on that edgy preteen humor. You know how South Park describes 4th graders, where they're just like, dude, boobs, ass, titties, drugs. Yeah. That's who they're writing for here. And if you haven't gotten to the point where you like a little bit of setup to your joke, then this probably isn't for you. This is just going to be random jokes hoping that it's going to make you laugh. And for me, that just doesn't work. I understand that there is a market for it. There are people that can find it this funny. And if you can, God, I envy you. I wish I could just sit down and watch this and have a good time. I just honestly can't, because the characters have no charisma. They don't bounce off each other to do anything interesting. They're just like the Paradise PD characters, where they feel like they all hate each other. Everything is cynical. They gotta make meta jokes. In that first episode where one of the robots was initially like, is this gonna be like Rick and Morty or Futurama? I just knew I was in for such a bad time. I just knew that they were gonna have no confidence in their jokes. They weren't gonna have a confidence in their story, which was completely evident in episode 2, where there's 5 different plots going on. A, B, C, D, E, F. Why do you need 5 fucking plots in one episode? There is just no reason for that. That just screams that you have absolutely zero confidence that you could tell a good one-note story, because you just have to fluff it up with a bunch of slop stories in between. The twin story did not need to exist. The chaos story, as much as I did like the visuals for that one and what was going on, where the little guy was just like, chaos, and just like breathing chaos and everything, that did not need to be in the story. There was no reason for it. Which is why I'm leaning a lot to just full-on hating this show more than Paradise PD and more than Brickleberry, because not only is it the 3rd ripoff, it just does it so much worse than them, because there's actually nothing going for it. At least with Paradise PD, I could like identify a clear A and B plot. You know, the characters are doing specific things, they're moving towards a specific place. Here, it just feels like things are happening for no reason at all, and they don't know a story they want to tell, and it makes it even worse that they had 10 episodes, which they could have made for a entire just set story, like, you know, throw in jokes here and there, but we're moving the plot forward, we got things going on. Bezarak versus Renzo, trying to overtake the kingdom or trying to give aliens rights and stuff, but we're just gonna fluff it up with nonchalant stories where conjoined twins have to cut off their 3rd brother named Sal, who is on their boobs. Yeah, it's just so unbelievably odd, and it makes me so angry. But yeah, I don't know how this video is going to turn out. I just felt like I ranted for a very long time, because I'm just, oh God, I hate these shows so much, man. I hate these shows, but somebody's got to put them down. Somebody's got to stomp on that throat that's already been stomped on a million times by other content creators, and now it's my turn. So yeah, if you guys like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.